We are a different class of citizen that is treated as a second type. And to this day, it remains that we are in fact a colony. We are still fighting to get our status defined. In 1952, Luis Muñoz Marin, the governor at that time, developed something called Estado Libre Asociado, or what is known today as the Commonwealth.
Fire and Water News. Leftist as fuck for obvious reasons. To preserve and amplify BIPOC and queer community history, education, and discourse is the first step in fighting fascism.
Today, I'm very excited to get the chance to interview Luis Torio, who is an absolute rock star in the TikTok community with over 474,000 followers, which actually, let's just start there. Why did you get into TikTok? Sort of what drew you to TikTok, and what do you think you can attribute your just rampant success to?
Yeah. Hi everyone, and thank you for having me. I just had like a lot of things on my mind from my childhood and growing up in Puerto Rico, and I just had a lot of things to say. I didn't think that people were gonna listen, and they did. My first video was in a hotel room in Seattle. I just got bored, and I put one up about racism, and it blew up. It had like 10,000 views, and then I had like 10,000 followers in a weekend. The next week, I posted another one about the island, and it had like 20,000, and then it organically just grew. And within less than 6 months, I was at like 200,000, and then it's been now almost 2 years, and I'm close to 500,000. It's been a wild ride. A lot of fun, crazy. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Now you say the island. So for those of you that aren't aware, Luis is from, Luis or Luis?
It's Luis. It's the Puerto Rican version, the Latino version. Luis. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So Luis is from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And grew up in Puerto Rico, moved to the mainland in the latter part of your life. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up in Puerto Rico? What's a fun story from your childhood?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the island back in the 1975 and 47, so I was in the island for a long time. I left when I was 35 years old. My father used to be an attorney, a labor affairs attorney, and I fell in love with the profession. And then I went to the University of Puerto Rico, and then I moved to the School of Law, Inter-American School of Law, and I became a lawyer, and I passed the bar, and I was licensed. I had my own practice. I worked for the government for a while in labor as well, so I followed his footsteps. But then back in 2008, when the housing crisis got really bad, Puerto Rico's economy fell under, and I needed to make a choice. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to just try my luck and move into the United States and see what goes from there. And then the rest is history. But I always go back and visit my home. It's a place that is very close and dear to me. I love my island. I love the people there. It's just a place that feels different than anywhere else where I may be. I had a lot of childhood memories that were crazy, the hurricanes, us playing dominoes, waiting that last hour for the hurricane to come in and start blowing. We would always have that sense of community where we would grill all the meats before the lights went out because it was going to go bad anyway. So we did like a big barbecue before storms came in. We just had a really nice sense of community, and still does, to this day, even after Maria, which hit us pretty hard. Puerto Rico is just a place that it's everyone is family. I tell people all the time, no matter where you go. We have a saying in Spanish, donde come uno, come en día, right? Where one eats, 10 can eat too. We always have enough for everybody, and we're a very close, tight community. It's gone down to 3.5 million in population, but it used to be 5. But a lot of people have left because of the economy and moved to the United States.
Okay. That's a beautiful sentiment in a wildly unfortunate scenario that you're describing. And I feel like that is a tension that I've heard expressed in other people speaking from that Puerto Rican island experience. It is the highest highs, but in the middle of a very sort of dark undercurrent.
Yes.
So as we're diving into that space, can you sort of walk us through the history of Puerto Rico. Give us some of the moments and the moves that have gotten us to where we are right now.
Yeah, Puerto Rico is a very idiosyncratic kind of place. We have a very different situation than most countries. We were basically won as a prize from the Spanish-American War for the United States after Spain colonized us a long time ago. And our status never really changed. The United States wanted to keep their presence in the island, but they didn't want to give us all the rights that U.S. citizens have, like the right to vote for the president and things like that, federal funding. We still get a little bit of help, but we're never going to be the same as Americans that are born in the United States. We are a different class of citizen that is treated as a second type. And to this day, it remains that we are, in fact, a colony. We are still fighting to get our status defined. In 1952, Luis Muñoz Marin, the governor at that time, developed something called Estado Libre Asociado, or what is known today as the Commonwealth. It was something that solved a problem, but it was an immediate problem. Eventually, it had to change, but it never did. And then we still remain the same. And I think eventually that status problem that we've always had in the island has to be solved. And it seems to be there's no end in sight because we don't really know what's going to happen. We had a project to decolonize Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rico Status and Self-Determination Act, but Republicans blocked it, and then we couldn't move forward. It's very sad because
what year was that?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I just said, what year was that?
Oh, it was last year. It was recent. Yeah, and Alexandra Ocasio promoted it. Ocasio-Cortez, she was the one that spearheaded the project. It was a fantastic project because it gave us a plan where Puerto Ricans can choose self-determination, and they could pick statehood, they could pick independence or sovereignty, or they can also do a free association status with powers. All three of them were viable, and it was going to be done within a 3-year span where they were going to transfer powers and funding to us, and it was going to be a very big deal for the island. But unfortunately, Republicans blocked it. And it's sad because Puerto Ricans have, to this day, not gotten what we deserve in terms of self-determination and knowing what is going to be the future of our island.
In this and in other interviews that I've listened to that you've participated in, you've mentioned both statehood and various types of independence.
Yeah.
One, what do you think that each of those would look like ideally, and do you have a preference? Like, in this moment, obviously, as the winds of politics change, difference might be more advantage. But at this moment,
yeah, it's a very complex topic because a lot of people have different arguments towards the three alternatives. All three have their pros and their cons. I personally lobbied for statehood for a while because I think that out of the three formulas, statehood probably will be the most streamlined and quick one because we already have their coin. We're using a lot of their systems. We are benefiting from a lot of things. It will just be far less work to create new things, as in comparison to becoming a sovereign nation, we will have to develop our own monetary system. We kind of have the government in place, but we will still have to develop an entire infrastructure of government where we can work with other countries, develop treaties and whatnot. I don't think it's impossible. I think we can definitely also achieve independence and become a sovereign nation. It's just a little bit more harder at work. And we also have to determine who are the people that are going to work on that, right? Because we need experts. We need people that are experts in finance. We need lawyers. We need people that are experts in accounting and government administration. And unfortunately, the government of Puerto Rico has failed us many times. We need kind of new, fresh blood to keep that government running, whether we choose statehood or independence. But we really got to revamp our system to the point where it gets to be functional. And the third option is also viable, which is a form of free association, where we can be linked to the United States, but we're not subjugated to their powers, where we can also have treaties with them, but also with other countries where we could develop our economical system. And it's kind of getting truly the best of both worlds instead of what we have right now. We just haven't achieved that yet. I think at the end of the day, what I think really doesn't matter that much because I don't live in Puerto Rico. I think that the people who need to determine what to do with the island are the people who live there. I don't think
Sure.
that people that do not live in the island should have a right to vote on it, including me. If I'm living in the United States, I shouldn't have a say on that. I would consider going back to the island, depending on the status formula that they choose, and possibly become a congressman for Puerto Rico if they chose me, right? If I am honored with that, or a senator, depending on the situation, if we become a state. If we became independent, then it will have to be a different alternate program where I could see myself going in and working for my country again. But yeah, there's different alternatives, and all of them has pros and cons. It's just a very complex topic.
Of course, and obviously, I'm not. I'm not expecting you to solve it.
You can put me on the spot. It's fine.
Exactly. No, but it is nice for those of us who don't have the experience to at least be able to see what's going on and try and live in a space of understanding, because
Yes,
it's so easy for me and for many others of us to just forget about Puerto Rico on a day-to-day basis, and we forget about that island to their detriment, and
yes.
that's the tragedy. Our not remembering only hurts them.
Yep.
It's a lot like any other fundamentally exploitative system.
Yep, you summarized it perfectly. Actually, it's very much like that. I always tell people that we're like the long lost cousin that visits once a year at Christmas, and it's there, but you don't really remember them until you see them, and you're like, "Hey, cousin," and you give them a hug and you share with them, and then they go on their way, and you don't think about them anymore until the next thing happens. That's kind of where we are. We're always in the back of the classroom, but we're there, and we're not going anywhere. And we are people who are American citizens, and we should be valued at the same level that other American citizens in the mainland are.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, that has not been the case.
So, in the various phases of that fight, of that quest over time, the Supreme Court has played a pivotal role at a series of junctures across this narrative. Would you like to talk about sort of any of those specific instances, or the role that they've played and will play sort of moving forward?
Yeah, ever since the times of the insular cases where it was resolved what the country of the United States was going to do with Puerto Rico, we've always been treated like a very weird, atypical case of, as they call it, right? You're foreign in a domestic sense. It's like we are part, but we are not. And we never really truly had that defined by the Supreme Court of the United States. And every time we apply for things like recently the supplemental Social Security income, those helps are not available for Puerto Rico certain assistance programs because we don't contribute to their taxation system in terms of income tax. And there's other caveats. It's very convoluted because we give them our blood, our sweat, our tears, our labor, our bodies to go to war, but then they don't let us choose other things, or they don't give us the same benefits as other people. Meanwhile, we're worthy for cannon fodder, and we are part also of the draft. I remember when I signed myself when I was 18 for the draft, we can go fight for a war where we don't choose our commander-in-chief because we can only vote for the president where we're in the mainland in the United States, but not in Puerto Rico. It's a very difficult situation because they see us as currency, but they don't treat us with the value that we bring to the table for them. It's always that tipping scale, but it shifts the other way around. And it's frustrating because we've spoken about this many times. But what's even worse is that Puerto Ricans cannot come together to push forward in one single determination where everybody chooses the same thing and we move forward on that boat. We're always like kind of divided in a lot of these topics.
So that was another question that I wanted to get to. I know that you mentioned that you return to Puerto Rico somewhat frequently. How frequently? And when you're there, do you get a feeling for the possibilities that a unified demand from Puerto Rico may ever come to fruition?
Listen, it's crazy. I go to Puerto Rico all the time because my family is there. My mom is there. My dad is there. My sister. Every single human being that I love and that I am close to, my uncles, my cousins, everyone is there. And my best friends are there. So I go twice a year, sometimes more. And I talk to them. I actually talked to a friend of mine, Rafael, recently. We were at La Placita having beers, and I told him, it's like, listen, when is this going to change? And he has been living there forever. He's a teacher, and he says, I don't think it ever will. I think we're at a point where we're in like a limbo, and it's never really going to progress from that, because Americans don't want us to progress, and also because the United States government has in their best interest to keep us at bay, because they don't have to give us all the benefits, but they can still get the milk for free without buying the cow. So it's a very good business deal for them. I sometimes think, well, maybe I'll run, but then I have friends telling me, what you're doing from your position of TikTok, I think it's better than as a politician sometimes. Because once you turn into a politician, then it shifts, and then people start losing trust in you. But what you're doing right now is advocacy, so you're creating awareness on a lot of things, and nobody controls your filter. But if you go work for the Democrats, then everything you say, it's going to be like kind of whitewashed. It's a very weird thing, because sometimes you don't know where to fall in place. But I do think that as Puerto Ricans, we really, really need to come together as a vast majority and come up with a formula that works for everybody. But it's always like 40% want Commonwealth, and then like 50% want statehood. And then there's like 5% who want independence. And we just really can't come together, because we're such a confused country that is victim of what is arguably the longest colony that has ever been ran, And the colonized mindset is very difficult to abandon, because you feel like you get comfortable in it, and then you just stay inside that hat like a rabbit waiting for the trick. You're not really moving. The Puerto Rico problem, I call it the Puerto Rico problem. I should write a book on it. It's very complex. A lot of people have solutions, but nobody can execute it,
Well, I do think that you are doing a fantastic job of generally raising awareness, keeping this in the eyes and ears of people who would not otherwise encounter these questions, much less the complicated answers. And for what it's worth, I think that we can agree that keeping it in the minds of the people who are benefiting from it unknowingly is a part of what will at least get you, I should say, the island of Puerto Rico, to a place where real decisions will have to be discussed. And at the very least, the governmental entities in the United States will at least have to stop arresting progress. At least they'll do that.
Yes.
And hopefully, hopefully so much more than that.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same. We need to keep creating awareness. Hopefully it will happen.
Exactly. So, as we know, as we've talked about already, you're on TikTok. You are Luis Itorio, LuisIToro787.
Yes.
If they want to find you in TikTok. But are there other places that they can encounter your work or engage with you? Tell people how they can get in contact with you, what you'd like to see them do as far as helping with the message and doing the work. Give them a little rundown, and then I'll wrap us up, and then I'll offer you the last word.
Yeah. I also have my Instagram account with the same name. I didn't touch it a lot, but I'm going to start ramping it up. I have also a YouTube channel with the same name. I call it the Mofongo Wars, from an old joke about that we obtain our citizenship by throwing mofongo balls once a year in El Morro, because somebody asked me how we get our citizenship, so I call it the Mofongo Wars, and it grew organically. It's actually one of my most viewed videos. Is Pin. It has 1.7 million views. But I also have that YouTube. I'm trying to develop a podcast. I just also have my job with the government, so it's very difficult I'm crunched on time. But go to my Insta, go to my TikTok. Message me if you have any questions and stuff. I can always help. But also, I always tell people, follow content creators on TikTok that are Puerto Rican. There's a lot of good ones that speak English and Spanish or both. Follow content creators that are Puerto Rican. Boost them, because they have a lot of educational content. People that are doing the work, there's a lot of them. Just search Puerto Rican content creators and it will pop up. Dean Huertas is one of them that comes to mind. He has more than 1 million followers. Yo Soy Jolie from Puerto Rico. She's fantastic. Cooking con Mommy, which she teaches recipes from Puerto Rico. We need to support our Puerto Rican people. And I also tell people, support our Black brothers, because we are birds of a feather. I am very close to my Black people, my Black community. You know, I'm half Black. My father is Black. I love connecting with minorities and with people of color, with my indigenous people that are on TikTok. Boost them. You know, I am partly Taino from the Native Americans, Puerto Rico. My indigenous, my Black culture is always present. So I always try to boost Puerto Ricans, Black people, Black content creators, indigenous content creators. We need to push our people more. We need to boost them more, you know? By that, we create a sense of community and a sense of education where everybody can teach each other, and we grow more as a minority group, you know?
Exactly.
Support our people. That's important. Just boost everybody.
Okay. That is fantastic. I think that I couldn't have asked for a better last word. This is perfect. I look forward to engaging with you, not just on TikTok, which is where we know each other from, but across multiple different platforms. And I think that we can continue to push for the good things on the horizon.
I will hope so. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Keep on promoting the good stuff. I love you guys.
Fire and Water News. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Become a patron to support our team, to help to expand our community, to help us produce more quality content, and pay our contributors equitably. To preserve and amplify BIPOC and queer community history, education, and discourse is the first step in fighting fascism.